Hey, welcome back to the Soul Pod. This is Stacy. Tara Brock once said, "The boundary to what we can accept is the boundary to our freedom." Today, I want to talk about boundaries. There's a lot of talk about boundaries and a lot of misunderstanding about what exactly boundaries are. And I've had conversations recently with people that bring to mind that a lot of us think that this is what it isn't. So I wanted to share this video to help you understand better what boundaries are and how they can work for you to give you greater peace of mind, greater freedom. You ready? So what boundaries are? Boundaries are actually just one thing, really. They are limits to protect your spiritual and emotional energy. Boundaries are not walls or selfishness. They're acts of self-respect. Okay. The big misinterpretation of what a boundary is people saying, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to, put up these walls, keep people out." It's not about that. It's about what's acceptable to you. And only you know what's acceptable to you, nobody else. So who's going to set your boundaries but you, right? The reality is, we all know this feeling when you're around someone who drains you. You know that feeling of having someone that you just can't take anymore. That's your spiritual and emotional energy getting wrung out of you. And if that happens, you're not as good a person as you can be, right? You're not in that happy zone, in that good zone, that positive zone, that upbeat zone. If you get around someone negative long enough, you start becoming negative for that reason because they break down those walls. So all a boundary is you simply setting up this thing where you say, look, like for instance, let me give you an example. Uh, Last video I did, I talked about a road trip I went on with my dog, and we ended up going to all these great places, Grand Canyon and to Death Valley and all these little ghost towns and stuff. And I chose to do that trip alone because I wanted that experience to be one that was here more versus here more. Now, I could have asked someone to go along with me, but I chose not to do that. Was that me being unkind by not inviting someone to come with me? Or was that me simply knowing that doing it alone would be a more mystical experience for me, a better experience, a more spiritual experience for me? That's a boundary. It doesn't seem like a boundary because we tend to we grandize these visions of what a boundary is, like we must build the great wall of boundary, and that's not what it is at all. It's simply going, no, like your friend calls, "Hey, you want to come out tonight? We're all gonna go drink in here, dance in here, whatever." And you say, no, I'm gonna go ahead and stay in tonight. I'm feeling a little drained and I want to rebuild my, you don't even have to explain why, but no, that's a simple no can be a boundary. It's not some grand thing that you're putting a giant sign on telling the world, "This is my wall, you may not cross." It's not like that. Like Gandalf on the bridge over here, "Thou shalt not cross." Nope, that's not how it is. So if you've got that vision in your mind, toss it out. That's not what boundaries are. Boundaries are simply these little moments, moment by moment. And it comes from knowing yourself. Knowing yourself allows you to say, wow, yeah, you know what? I'm kind of depleted. I don't want to go out tonight. Something that simple. So I want to talk a little more about why boundaries matter. Uh, the great author and researcher Brene Brown said, "Daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves, even when we risk disappointing others." Okay, you see how that ties in with what I've been saying? It's about caring enough about yourself that you make yourself a priority, that you make your spiritual and personal energy a priority. You're not letting yourself get depleted, get drained. You are making yourself a priority at the risk of disappointing others. And see, that's the key for a lot of people. For a lot of people, when they're first setting boundaries, they're very rigid about it. It's a no, instead of a no. And it's because I think primarily a fear of the other person taking it wrong when you say, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. Because perhaps we have a story in our head of how they're going to respond to us. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. We don't know. But, we don't have to go full Gandalf with the staff and say, "Thou shalt not pass," right? We just simply say, "No, not tonight. Thank you." And, if you do that enough times, and if the boundary is about someone who's toxic in your life, you can go a little bit more Gandalf on them, you know, that's fine. um, if they keep testing your walls, right? But simple boundaries in life are simply knowing yourself, respecting yourself, and having the courage to love yourself enough to go ahead and set a boundary at the risk of upsetting someone else, the potential risk. In most cases, they're not going to be all that bothered, right? Like my little example about friends calling, say, you want to go out and have a drink, do whatever. And I'm like, yeah, not tonight. But thanks for offering. I had a friend recently ask me if I wanted to do something, and I had a schedule conflict. It wasn't really a conflict, but it was going to make my next day a little harder if I went and did that. So I was like, no, I got a conflict that's going to bump into, but please keep asking me. And the message that sent to her was that I'm saying no, but I'm not saying no to you. I'm saying no to this. I'm still your friend and I still want to hang out with you. So, you can do things like that. Boundaries matter because they prevent resentment. It's clear communication. You understand? You're actually communicating with somebody where your limits are, what you're up for, what you're not up for. It's clear and authentic communication, and it nurtures joy. It creates space for authentic relationships. That's pretty important. So the more true you are to yourself, the less confusing you are to other people because you're not all over the board. People will eventually start going, oh, yeah, he doesn't like going out on Thursday nights because for some reason we usually get a no on Thursday nights or whatever it is. You start being highly consistent. You're also nurturing joy within yourself because you're keeping yourself from being affected by the negative impact of others' energy, if that's why your boundaries are there. You're creating space for authentic relationships, as I mentioned, because you're being genuine with them. That's all good stuff, isn't it? I mean, is this different than what you thought a boundary was? Is this changing the way you look at boundaries? If so, share something in the notes below. Just tell me what you think. Tell me if you've used boundaries in the past wrong or right. If you have any great advice as well, because honestly, I'm not the only one reading this. Everybody watching the videos reads these, and anytime someone shares, you're sharing with the whole group, and it's a beautiful thing. So this week, as an exercise, do this. Watch for an opportunity to start setting small boundaries. Again, we don't have to go full wall, just little boundaries. And remember, it all comes from inside. If someone reaches out and says, hey, do you want to whatever? Or, hey, can I borrow, a book, your car, whatever the thing is that makes you go, and you try to overcome it. Watch for that moment of trying to overcome your initial reaction of, and ask yourself, is this a good place for a boundary? Just recognize if it's really a no, but you're trying to force a yes. Instead, give a soft no. And if the soft no is not enough, then you can be harder with it. But no, I'm sorry, I can't. It's just a boundary. It's not the end of the world. It's the beginning of building back your joy, your self-respect, and beautiful relationships. Thanks for being here. Thanks for enjoying the channel. Thanks for sharing the channel with your friends. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe. And if you haven't checked out the Soul Podcast yet, check it out. You're going to like it. I really appreciate that you're all here. I just want to take a second to say that. I'm coming up on close to 100 videos now, which is wonderful. The channel keeps exploding and growing, and I'm getting comments from people all around the world, which is really fantastic to do something like this from the heart and have such wonderful reactions from people. So thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing this with your friends. And if you like, thanks for sharing comments. See you on the next video.